Welcome to Lesson 5D. In the next preview assignment and in the next class, you will need to use the skills from the previous lessons in computing, and I didn't get my marker ready, in computing means and percentages. We're going to practice calculations, beginning with analyzing population data. Below is a table that lists the 2010 populations of the 14 counties in Massachusetts. This is a great time to hit pause, go do questions 1 through 4, and then come back and let's do these together. Question number 1, what was the total population of the state of Massachusetts in 2010? Right now I don't have this in a spreadsheet, so to find total population, I'm going to need to take all of these numbers, put them in a calculator, add them all together, and I will go ahead and tell you that on question number 1, the total population for the state of Massachusetts in the year 2010 was 6,547,629 people. What was the mean population of a county in Massachusetts in 2010? With 14 counties and with a total population of 6,547,629 people divided by 14 counties people, it wants to know what's the mean population of each county. And we're getting 467,688 people for every one county. Question number 3, do you think the results in question 2, that result is a useful measure of the typical population of a county in Massachusetts? You could have written down something either way. You could have said yes, because mean average is a typical way to view a set of numbers. Or 2, you could have said no, because the populations vary so widely from, like right here, more than 1.5 million, all the way down to, wow, 10,000. It's a huge range. So you might say, no, this is not typical, or a good way to look at a measure for these counties. Question 4, for each county, compute its share of the population in the state as a percentage of the state population. Round your answers to the nearest hundredth of a percent and input them in the previous table. I'm going to work on the first couple with you, and then I'm going to hit pause and fill in the rest of the table. But starting with the first, looking at our very first county, which is Barnstable, or Barnstable, probably Barnstable, I'm going to take the 215,888 people and divide them by 6,547,629 people. I get a decimal value, so then I'm going to multiply it by 100, and the directions on number 4 are asking us to round it to the nearest hundredth, right? Hundredth of a percent. So I'm getting 3 dot, then I see 297. And so the 9 is where I'm rounding to, but the 7 is going to make my 9 all go up to a 30. So I'm getting 3 and 30 hundredths of a percent of this entire state of Massachusetts. Let's go ahead and do one more. Let's go ahead and jump down here to the big one, 1,503,000. So I'm going to type in 1,503,085 and divide it by the 6,547,629 people, and I get a decimal. I'm going to multiply it by 100 and then round it to the nearest hundredth, and I get 22 and 96 hundredths percent. I'm going to hit pause and write all of these in, and then I'll be right back. If you haven't already finished your table, go ahead and finish your percentages on your table too. Now is a good time to check our percentages, and you might even hit pause and let them freeze on the screen and double check our percentages and keep going with me on question 4. Question 4 talks about computing the percentages. We did that, And then part A says Boston is the largest city in Massachusetts. If you had to make an educated guess based only on this table, which county would you say that Boston is located? And since it is the largest city in Massachusetts, looks like we would say it's in Middlesex, and that would be the 22%. But not but, part B is but. In fact, Boston is in Suffolk County. And I'm sure I'm butchering the names. I'm not a native Bostonian, but the Suffolk County, it is surrounded by Essex. Where is Essex? Middlesex, Norfolk, and counties. And what percentage of the total population of Massachusetts lived in one or lives in one of these four or lived in one of these four counties in 2010? Well, we would need to add up the percentages of all of these counties. So grabbing a calculator, I'm going to add in my 11 and 35 hundredths, 22 and 96 hundredths, added to 10 and 24 hundredths, and added to 11 and 3 hundredths. I'm getting 55 and 58 hundredths percent, and that's a lot. So I'm at 4B, getting 55 and 58 hundredths of a percent of the total population of Massachusetts, and they live in one of these four counties. Part C, what were the top 5 most populous counties in Massachusetts in 2010? And probably oh, here's one. Here's another one. Let's see if anybody else is going to creep up there. Nope. It looks like it's going to be these as the top 5. Essex, Middlesex, Norfolk, Suffolk, and Worcester. And looking at these 5, it says Part D, determine the percentage of the population of Massachusetts that lived in one of the 5 most populous counties in 2010. I'm going to come back to 4B, and for 4D, I'm going to start where we left off at 4B, and I'm going to add in Worcester and see that we're getting, wow, 67 and 78 hundredths of a percent, more than 2/3 of the state lived in one of these 5 most populous counties in 2010. We're now moving on to question 5, and this is a great time for you to hit pause, go do question 5, and come back, and we'll work it together. So looking at question 5, this is the graphic that they have for us, which is a snippet from an Excel spreadsheet. This is what we're going to use to talk through our questions, part A, B, and C. Part A, what formula using a sum function would we enter into cell B17? So let's find cell B, starting with B, and then 17. What would we enter here to compute that 2010 total population that we did by hand a while ago? And in this cell, we would, and I'm going to go ahead and get that out of there so I've got more room to write. In this cell, we would start with an equals, and we would tell the program that we would like for it to add up parentheses, and we want it to start here and add all the way down to here. And up here is B3, so let's tell it to start from B3, colon, and head all the way down here to B16, and that will give us the sum that we are looking for. Part B says, when we want Excel to calculate the mean, we can use the average function, and it's similar to the sum function with the word average replacing sum. So construct the formula using the average function that we would enter into cell B18. So down here was the total. Now we're trying to find the mean or the average. To find the average, instead of having to do it by hand, we would start with equals, and then we would type in average, and we're going to tell it the same thing. We want it to specifically average all the way from B3 down to B16. Finally, Part C says, assume that the total population of Massachusetts has been correctly computed in cell B17. Whatever we got right there, let's assume it was correct. What formula, using relative and absolute cell references, would we enter in cell C3? Okay, C3 is up here. What are we going to enter into cell C3 to compute the share of Massachusetts population in Barnstable County expressed as a percentage of the state population? And what we did by hand, we didn't say equals, but that's what we got to tell Excel. We took the population sitting in this cell, which in this case would be B3, and we divided it by the information down in this total cell, which is officially B17. But what they're asking us to do is to use the relative and absolute cell references, which are going to lock in the total and not allow it to change. And so we would need to type in something like, and this will vary, but I'm going to go the lazy one and just put $17, telling it we want to lock in that total. But I'm going to go ahead and put some parentheses and then tell it to multiply it by 100. If we don't know if the cell is already a percentage or not, or if we just need to be mindful of reasonableness, and we need to look and be familiar with our program and what we're trying to get it to accomplish. This completes our lesson 5D. You need to look at your calendar and see if there are more lessons that are due this week.